This document changes everything. Tonight, what you're about to hear will shake the foundation of how you see Barack Obama, because Karoline Leavitt just went live and exposed a truth buried for nearly 2 decades. For years, we've heard the same polished narrative: hope, change, unity. But what if the real story wasn't told? What if behind the speeches, behind the headlines, there was a strategy, a network, a machine? Well, tonight, that machine just got exposed. And it wasn't by a reporter. It wasn't by the media. It was by a 27-year-old firebrand who brought the receipts, the dates, the documents, and put them right in front of the man who built a legacy on being untouchable. You won't believe what Karoline found in Obama's past, because we're not just talking politics. We're talking collusion, manipulation, and a pattern of control that could rewrite the history of an entire presidency. This is not a smear campaign. This is not speculation. This is a confrontation on live television between one of the most powerful figures in modern American history and the woman who dared to hold him accountable. If this is your first time here, subscribe. This video might not stay up long. And before we dive in, drop a comment. Do you believe legacy media protects certain politicians? Yes or no? Because what Karoline is about to reveal might just prove it. The lights blazed inside the American Pulse studio, a modern coliseum of truth, tension, and televised spectacle. The audience was electric, whispering with anticipation, phones ready to record every second of what was promised to be a historic night. At center stage, 2 podiums. On the left, the youngest spokesperson in U.S. history, Karoline Leavitt. Confident, controlled. Her eyes scanned the room like a strategist entering battle. On the right, Barack Obama. Calm, measured, his expression unreadable, like a veteran stepping into familiar territory. The host's voice cut through the tension. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we witness not just a debate, but a reckoning. In an era of manipulated narratives, rising distrust, and questions of accountability, the truth must speak loudest. Cameras panned, applause erupted, but just beneath the noise, there was something sharper, a collective inhale, the moment before the match begins. This wasn't about sound bites. This was about exposing what had been hidden, what had been spun, and Karoline was ready to strike first. Karoline didn't waste time. She stepped forward, voice low but cutting like glass. Mr. Obama, before you became president, before you were even a household name, you laid the groundwork for something much bigger than a campaign. You laid the foundation for influence. From beneath the podium, she pulled a file. This, she said, holding it up, is a collection of communications dated back to 2004, the year you began your Senate journey. These documents show meetings, emails, strategy memos, not with constituents, not with policy experts, but with media executives. The studio fell silent. Executives, she continued, who later became heads of networks, producers of nightly news, gatekeepers of narrative. She opened the file, a list of names, a timeline, photos of casual meetings framed as media networking. You didn't just rise, she said. You were elevated, handpicked, promoted, not just by voters, but by a media machine ready to build a brand. The audience froze. Obama remained still, but Karoline's next line hit like a thunderclap. Was this transparency, or was this manipulation in its infancy? She let the silence sit, and just like that, the first blow had landed. Obama leaned forward, fingers steepled, voice even. Karoline, I appreciate the passion, but let's be clear. Those meetings were standard political outreach. Everyone in public service talks to the media. That doesn't mean they control it. He paused, scanning the crowd. I never instructed a single network editor or journalist to push a narrative. I earned the trust of the American people through my message, not through manipulation. Applause broke out from sections of the audience. A few stood, but Karoline didn't blink. She waited, let the moment settle, and then said, voice firm, then explain this. Karoline tapped her tablet. The screen behind them lit up with a projected email. The subject line read, PR Strategy Pre-Prime Time. Dated April 2004, she said. This internal memo was authored by a media consultant directly tied to your campaign. It reads, and I quote, "Begin narrative shaping in key urban markets. Coordinate with friendly editorial boards before convention." The audience shifted. Whispers rose. Obama's jaw tightened. Karoline pressed on. "This isn't a one-off. It's part of a pattern. I have 3 more emails just like it. Different dates, same tone, all before pivotal moments in your rise." The host interjected, voice steady, trying to rein in the moment. "These are serious accusations, Karoline. Are you suggesting Mr. Obama coordinated media support from the beginning?" "I'm not suggesting," she said. "I'm showing." Another tap, another slide, a list of media appearances, their timing, a visible correlation to poll boosts, trending headlines, and conveniently timed editorials. "The press didn't just cover him," she said. "They curated him." Gasps, a smattering of claps. Obama shook his head but remained silent. And just like that, Karoline had moved from accusation to evidence. The host stepped forward, grounding the moment with gravitas. In a recent Gallup poll, only 34% of Americans say they trust the media. That's an all-time low. Karoline, your accusation cuts deeper than Obama's rise. You're challenging the foundation of modern political communication. Karoline didn't flinch. This isn't just about Barack Obama. This is about a system that chose him, protected him, and built a narrative that millions accepted without question. The screen behind her lit up again. "Look at this timeline. 2004 to 2008. Every major dip in polling was followed by a carefully timed interview, magazine cover, or primetime speech. Not random, not coincidental, strategic." She turned back to Obama. "You didn't rise with hope. You rose with leverage." A murmur rippled across the room. Even Obama's supporters were quiet now, processing the pattern. The camera zoomed on Karoline as she closed the segment. When a legacy is built on a myth, the truth is not an attack. It's a rescue. Then Karoline made it global. "Mr. Obama," she said, "you once said America must lead with words, not war. But what if those words were written for others too?" The room fell into a hush. She tapped her tablet. A video clip began playing. A former diplomatic aide, face blurred, voice distorted, speaking into a hidden camera. "We helped draft speeches for allied leaders, gave them Obama-tested phrasing, sometimes past-approved talking points directly from West Wing staff." The audience gasped. The implication hung heavy. Was Obama exporting narrative control? Karoline didn't wait. "This isn't diplomacy. This is narrative colonization. You didn't just shape the U.S. dialogue. You exported it to allies, tying their legitimacy to your words." Obama stood still, hands clasped. "That's absurd," he finally replied, his voice calm but colder now. "Supporting allies isn't manipulation." But the audience wasn't sure anymore. Karoline had just expanded the battlefield. Karoline returned to the podium, her eyes locked on Obama. "Let's talk about something closer to home. Healthcare." The screen lit up again, this time with a familiar clip from 2009. Obama, "If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan." The clip ended. The studio was dead silent. Karoline turned to the crowd. That promise became the biggest broken commitment in modern policy history. But it wasn't an accident. It was strategy. She displayed a new document, an internal memo from a 2010 White House planning session. Memo excerpt, "Prepare mitigation response for anticipated plan cancellations in individual market. Messaging priority, minimize backlash." Karoline, steady and sharp. "You knew. You planned for the fallout, and you pushed the lie anyway. Millions lost their plans, their doctors, their trust." Obama took a deep breath. "We underestimated the complexity of the market. It was never intended to mislead." Karoline cut in. "You didn't miscalculate. You misled," the crowd murmured. And just like that, the Affordable Care Act wasn't just controversial. It was branded deceptive. "And it didn't end when you left office," Karoline said. She turned to the screen. A new report came up. Title, "Nonprofit Network Financial Flow, 2017 to 2020. While Americans thought you stepped back, your influence moved underground. She pointed to a chart. Over $20 million routed through nonprofits tied to media literacy, public education campaigns, and civic dialogue initiatives. Sounds innocent, she said, until you realize these same groups ran targeted campaigns against political opponents, funded media influencers, and shaped content under the guise of neutrality. She looked Obama in the eye. You didn't leave politics. You built a shadow system. Obama shook his head. Civic education isn't shadow politics. It's part of a healthy democracy. Karoline, then why were your opponents always the target of that education? The question hung in the air, the weight of it undeniable. Obama stepped forward, his tone firm but not raised, his words deliberate. Karoline, you're taking coincidences and creating conspiracies. These organizations promote engagement, not partisanship. Just because critics exist doesn't mean they were sent. He looked out to the audience. I reject this idea that empowering people to participate is political warfare. My administration and everything I've done since was focused on inclusion, not manipulation. Applause erupted, though more measured than before. Karoline didn't flinch, her voice now steady, precise. You say you empowered people, but you empowered a message, your message. Anything that threatened that narrative was sidelined, mocked, discredited. She let the silence return. That's not civic engagement. That's orchestration. And just like that, she set the stage for one final reveal. Karoline stepped aside and signaled to the control booth. Let's hear from someone who saw it from the inside. The screen brightened to show a pre-recorded testimony. Former Obama aide, face exposed, voice steady. I worked in strategic communications. Messaging wasn't spontaneous. It was crafted, tested, coordinated. We even timed statements with friendly media appearances. And yes, the idea was always control the conversation. The aide paused. We were told the president needs the press and the press needs the president. Don't give them a reason to go rogue. Back in the studio, jaws dropped. Karoline stepped forward, voice cutting. You didn't just manage image. You engineered influence. That's not transparency. That's control. Obama, now visibly tense, opened his mouth to speak, but Karoline held up one finger. You served a story, Mr. President, not the people. The studio fell completely still, and for the first time all night, Barack Obama had no immediate reply. The host returned to center stage, his voice calm, resolute. Tonight wasn't just a clash of personalities. It was a confrontation between legacy and accountability. He looked into the lens. For years, Barack Obama has been a symbol of progress, leadership, and vision. But tonight, those ideals were questioned with unrelenting force. He turned to Karoline. And from this stage, a new voice emerged, one not afraid to challenge power, one demanding truth above image. The audience began to applaud, not with frenzy, with weight, with reflection. Karoline stepped forward, no longer confrontational, but grounded. This isn't about left or right. It's about truth, about asking hard questions even when it's uncomfortable, even when the answers shatter myths. She raised her voice slightly. If we're going to reclaim trust in our system, we need transparency from every corner of power, even from those history has already crowned. She looked directly into the camera. This is your voice, not mine. Your right to know, your duty to question. Join the movement. Demand the truth. #truth first, quote. The lights dimmed. The debate was over, but its echoes were just beginning. Clips from the show began circulating online. Millions watched. Some called Karoline a disruptor, others called her a hero, and the arguments raged on. Fact-checkers, pundits, citizens, everyone had something to say, but one thing was certain, the narrative had cracked. And where cracks appear, light gets in. This wasn't just a debate, it was the start of something deeper, a national reckoning. And you were here when it began. Subscribe, stay alert, and remember, truth doesn't fear questions, it invites them. Truth first.